Hi everyone, Sandy Vail here at Homesteading Ways. Last week we did a video on harvesting chaga. So this week I figured we'd do a follow-up one on drying it and then using it for tea. Well, here's some of the chaga that I collected last week. Now when you're harvesting chaga, you're doing it in the winter because you want to get it before the tree starts producing sap in the spring. I'm not a chaga expert by any means, but I did read that it waters down the properties of it to have all that extra moisture in it, so you want to try and get it during the winter. And that would mean that it's already, a little more dry than other mushrooms are, but it still does need to be dried out. So I put it into smaller pieces. And first I let it sit for a day outside of the bag, just here on the counter, and then I broke it apart. Now if you have a really big single piece of chaga, it might be really hard to get that apart. So what you can do is go ahead and put it in like a cardboard box and then just hit it with something heavy like a hammer, because it's easier to have all of these pieces than one really big piece, and you need it to dry out thoroughly, so you want smaller pieces as well. So I just let this sit on my countertop for 2 or 3 days, and this is actually the third day. You could probably get away with it for a day or two because, like I said, the mushrooms are already somewhat dry to begin with, and winter air is very drying, so it probably doesn't take long at all, to get these dried out. Now, what most people will do is once their chaga is dried, they will grind it up. You don't have to. You can leave them in these pieces, and if you can get them smaller, which sometimes you can't, you can just use them by themselves for a cup or two of tea. Or you can use a coffee grinder. I don't know if can you see that there? Here's a coffee grinder. Or you can just grind them by hand like I usually do. Okay, now when making the tea, that can be a little on the tricky side, because different people will give you different answers on how to do it. And I'm not even sure there is a particular right way of making chaga tea. It depends, I think, on what you want to get out of your tea. And I'll leave a couple of really good links down in the description box, so really go and check those out. But my feeling is if you're using the chaga as an overall healing tea, to boost your immune system and just overall well-being, then you're going to take your chaga and you're going to, you can boil the water, but let it cool down a little bit and then pour it over your chaga and let it steep. The properties in it, from my understanding, that have all the great antioxidants and just overall immune boosting compounds in them, don't do well with boiling. You want a hot water. And in fact, quite a few people will put it in a crock pot and let it simmer, sometimes for hours. But I would let it steep in hot but not boiling water for 5 to 10 minutes at the least. But you could, like I said, you could put it in a crock pot, put a decent amount, and then you can have more than a couple cups of tea at the ready when you want. On the other hand, people that are using this to fight cancer, because it has been shown to kill some cancer cells, they believe that it has to be boiled in order to get those compounds out of the chaga. So in that case, you would boil this a good 5 to 10 minutes like a decoction. Turn it off and then let it steep thereafter. But overall, it's a great tea. If you've never tried it, I think you're really going to love it. It looks like coffee, and I'm thinking it's this black that gives it that coffee look. And it's mild, but it just has a really good earthy warm taste to it. I really don't know how to describe it, but it's a good tea, and I think you'll really like it. And your body will definitely benefit from it. So if you need to, check out the first video on how to harvest chaga. I'll put it up there in a card so you can see that, and I'll put it in the description too. And get yourself some chaga if you can. It's great. You'll love it, and maybe you have some extra to share with your friends. Thumbs up the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And don't forget to check us out on Instagram and Facebook. It was nice talking to you, and you take care.